Happy Doodle and Chat with friends.
Hello.
I mean, it's recording somewhere.
All right, are we ready?
Let's do it.
I have to tell you, I'm so excited about our guest today.
I am too. I was thinking about her as I was writing the questions about her, and I was like, you know, we joke that it's like 6 degrees of Doodle and Chat because everybody's kind of connected. I feel like Wanda is another one of our educators where we could say it's 6 degrees of Wanda.
Yes.
You know, yes. Like you really could. Every educator that we have, we could put Wanda in the middle of Doodle and Chat, and every one of them would have had like a connection to her, right?
I agree.
Special.
She is very special. And hopefully in this introduction, I can show that. So she is a 30-year educator, and she started her career as a band teacher, which my heart, like, that's just amazing. When I read that, I was like, that's fantastic. She currently serves as the director of technology. Perfect role for Wanda. So my interactions with her started on Twitter, and then our paths crossed at some ISTEs, where we kind of bonded over sketchnoting, and then later found out we were Google innovators together. She loves to share her knowledge and is so generous with her time. And she has actually received many awards and honors because of this awesomeness that she shares. So I am excited to doodle and chat all about Dr. Wanda Terral today.
Awesome. Here we go. Good morning.
Hey, everybody.
Thank you for being here with us. We're so excited.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it, and I appreciate seeing both of your smiling faces.
Awesome. Awesome. So Wanda knows a little bit of what she's getting into. I think she's pretty fully aware of what she's getting into. But for anybody else who's joining us or new to Doodle and Chat, we have with us what we call the bowl that knows. And we call it the bowl that knows because it always seems to give us just the right question for that moment in our Doodle and Chat with our friend. And in it are very special questions that we've written just for Wanda, as well as a few random ones that even Mandi, sorry, my teaching assistant's name just like popped in my head.
Okay. I can be Wendy today. It's fine. Whatever you want to call me.
That Mandi and I don't even know about. So we're going to turn our cameras on, pull from the bowl that knows, and we're going to Doodle and Chat all about Wanda today. I think it's the W in the Wanda that got me tripped up. There we go. I'm in a goofy mood today. I'll take it though. Oh, I got to get my page started. I'm behind already. And it's two R's, an A, and an L, right?
Yep. I do have my iPad up.
Oh, fun.
And I did my little Doodle Chat logo there in the corner.
Oh,
I am not a good live sketchnoter. It's something about my brain doesn't let me do things at the same time. But what I'll do a lot is I'll write down the phrases that stick out to me. And then I'll go back later, and that's when I tend to put a lot of the imagery with it to help solidify that statement or that thought that sticks with me.
I love it. I love it.
So I do have to ask a question before we start. And Carrie, if I steal a question, I'm so sorry. So when we first met, you like totally impressed me because you sketchnoted with your finger. Do you still do that, or do you use a stylus?
I have it. I moved to an Apple Pencil, but when I first started, yes, it was all my finger, and it was mainly because at the time I had such an old iPad that the Apple Pencil wouldn't work with it, and I just felt like I had a good bit of control over it with my finger. I don't mind at all using the Apple Pencil, but sometimes I still end up, pulling the old finger out. But yeah.
Fun. I love it. There's something just like, just very, this is going to be, I mean this in the best way, something very remedial, but also just like remedial in a way that taps us into a part of our body and probably like the connection between hands and things and drawing in a very special way, right?
Yes, and I liked the concept of it even after I went to the Apple Pencil, because you don't have to have an Apple Pencil to do this.
Yes.
Sometimes I'm hesitant to even share some of the tips and the hardware I use, because I don't want people to feel like you have to do this to do this,
I can relate. Yeah.
Yeah. Make sure you choose the correct finger there. It can be dangerous.
You can sketch with whatever finger you want. Depending on what you're sketchnoting, it's fine.
It could be therapeutic.
Right?
That's right.
This is how I feel about you today. You get this finger.
It helps that I don't have long nails. I'm sure if I had long fingernails, doing that with a finger would be more difficult. But
that does make me think about like trying that, like on Procreate, like getting out the paint options of things and just kind of it would, in my mind, it would make me feel even freer, like an artist, like I'm just gonna whimsically it. I'm sure, but yours is much more directed, but that's how I would feel. It would give me, and it would be uncomfortable. Like it would feel like that's just something you don't usually do, is get your, trace around with your finger on the iPad.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail, but
I love that. I love that.
When I would see her sketch note, and I would see like her sketch notes, by the way, are fantastic. And when I found out she did those earlier sketch notes with her finger, I was like, that is so cool.
Mm-hmm. But I think, we'll just go off task for a minute. I think Wanda brings up a good point, and I think Mandi and I have both faced that whenever you talk about whether it's sketchnoting or anything with education, people get stuck on the I need this, and really there's so many ways around lots of things that if you just think in an innovative way, or you just think about the finish line rather than how they're going to get there, but change how you're going to get to your finish line. There's lots of different ways to do many things, and I think that's it's a good reminder.
It is.
All right, here we go. Would you rather have a ghost or a monster in your closet? This is one of our random ones.
Ghost or monster?
Yes.
I would probably pick a ghost, especially if it was a nice ghost.
There you go.
I'm trying to think of more reasoning behind that.
Okay.
The word monster and the word ghost have different connotations in my brain.
Okay.
I don't generally think of the word monster as the cute monsters like from, cartoons and stuff. When my brain thinks monsters, I think, growling, beings that want to cause harm. I don't know that I necessarily think of ghosts as other, but in my brain, they tend to be less vicious. I think more of spirits than ghosts, right? So I would lean toward that and hope that the ghost was nice.
I agree with you. You know what I do? I think there's some rationale to that thinking. I could get down with that and agree with that. Like, yeah.
I actually have, not that I have great experiences with ghosts, but I have a picture somewhere in my brain of me going as a ghost for Halloween.
Oh,
and that,
okay.
we didn't have, we did a lot of make your own costumes when I was little, and we, didn't go out and spend a lot of money on costumes, but we had the ghost sheet that we would use, and it would stick around from Halloween to Halloween, and whichever one of us needed it, we would toss that ghost on, and there was our costume.
I love it. I love it.
I do too. We actually had a costume sheet as well. And sometimes it was a ghost, and sometimes it was a toga, and sometimes it was just whatever my kids needed. And that sheet was used, because I have 4 kids, that sheet was used for so many different dress up days or Halloweens. And I love that.
It's the perfect reuse, recycle kind of approach to sheets.
Yeah.
It is. It really is. I can't remember last time I drew a ghost. It's been a minute.
I like to doodle ghosts at Halloween time because
Oh, do
it's
you?
my favorite holiday.
You are very good at it.
Thank you. I like to doodle ghosts.
I'm gonna make you multitask, Wanda.
Okay.
Here we go. Oh, what are 3 timeless strategies and or mindsets for any educator?
Oh, goodness. I think probably the first one that comes to my mind is active listening.
Love it.
So not just hearing what our students and I'll say our learners. I tend to work more with adult learners, our staff, than I do students these days. But not just hearing the words, but trying to make sure that we understand the meaning behind the words. And what I have found personally is restating what my interpretation is of the word helps me make sure that I'm getting what their meanings are. And if I don't want to assume that because somebody says something that I'm interpreting it the right way, because my lived experience is very different from their lived experience. And making those assumptions can cause a lot of, turmoil that doesn't need to be there. But I think part of being able to do that is I don't know if this would be a strategy as much as a mindset, but not being afraid to admit you don't know the answer.
I love it.
And that kind of goes hand in hand with that. It's okay in my book to say, can you clarify that? I don't really understand what you're saying, or tell me more about that, because I don't have a whole lot of background about that. Share with me what you know about that so I can learn something. Certainly, since I moved into the technology side of things, I mean, every day there are things I don't know. And something I've had to kind of move into in the last, 5, 6 so years is actually supervising some tech staff. And I every year when I go through my own evaluation with my supervisor, that's always one of the things that I put down as an area that I need to grow. It's because I'm not really trained as a manager supervisor. So I try to approach it as I'm a teacher, I'm a mentor. That's okay. The way I look at it. I'm here to help you do your job better.
I love it.
And part of that is just being really transparent with my team when I don't know the answer. And hey, you've got expertise in this. Explain that to me so that I can help you better. If I know the right language of networking, then I can help you do your job better. And I've learned so much from my team just by taking that approach and not trying to say, I am the director, I know all. No, I don't. I'm very transparent about the fact that I don't. And because I've done that, I've been able to learn a whole lot more. And my team trusts me more because they know I'm not out to get them. I'm out here, trying to do the job with them as opposed to having them do the job for me. And I think that same kind of approach can happen in the classroom, a teacher with students. it's a learning environment. And if a teacher is willing to learn from their students, as opposed to just having the students learn from them, then I think it goes a lot to building that relationship.
100% agree with you.
To showing those kids that, one, learning never stops. And sometimes I do that even if I know the answer, because, it's a great opportunity to open that door without feeling like you as the adult don't know what you're doing. If you open it when you really know what you're doing, it feels a little less scary.
I like that.
But at the same time, you're letting the students show what they know. I mean, I'm not, not lying, but constructing the learning experience so that they have that opportunity to show some expertise. Honestly, even if it's not the topic that you're necessarily studying in class, I am sure that AI will probably come into this conversation somewhere. It comes into every conversation these days.
It actually hasn't yet for us, but we'll see if we can make that go.
One of the things that was always really difficult for me when I was in the classroom, well, not so much when I was teaching band, because we had music to bring that in common, but if I were teaching something like I taught music theory, and I wanted to really connect with the students as to their interests, you have to know the kids to be able to do that. But to do it really well, it helps to know more about what that thing is. If I had a student that was really into skateboarding, I'm not a skateboarder. I don't know all the language of skateboarding, and who's got the time to go dig into all of the individual interests of all of our students? We just don't have the time to do that. But now one of the great examples that I like to use with a generative AI product, whatever it is I want to teach a lesson about this, and my students are interested in this.
Oh, I love that idea.
How I can frame this lesson so that it will be more interesting and more relevant to my students. And they, that whatever the tool is may come up with horrible ideas, but maybe there's one little gem in there that you're like, I could do that. I could take that lesson and I could adjust this. And you can't do it for all the kids all the time, but if you kind of rotate the interest in the classroom, and then when you do that kind of lesson, you give that student who has that interest the chance to really show their expertise in that area. It helps reinforce the fact that while they may not know some things, they know things. And simply by letting them share those things, you're giving them voice, right? You're giving them recognition. You're showing them that you see them, and that they have something to contribute. And that goes such a long way to creating that relationship. And it's the same thing between a district staff and teachers that you're trying to support. And hopefully that's something that I think our team does really well at the district that I'm in.
I love it. So did you want the connections matter thing to be number 3, or did you have another?
It's probably number 3.
Okay. That was
I will say answer. It is number 3. Okay.
Good. I love it. It's an important reminder for sure.
It is.
It was interesting listening to you because, Mandi's in administration at the district, at the building level, and then I'm in the classroom. And listening to you talking about I'm not a manager, but then sharing your approach to being an educational leader at a district level, as soon as you gave the definition of the approach you wanted to take, I thought to myself, that is my most favorite kind of leader. And then you went on to share about active listening and not being afraid to not know the answers, and then also to inquire and to lean on staff. And then you said, this is always a place I want to work on when I get my evaluations. And I thought, you don't need to. Like, Wanda, those are all the things. And I mean, this is just me, but those are all the things that I find exceptionally valuable in a leader and an administrator. And those are qualities my administrators always, my favorite ones always have. So if that just gives you a little bit of, checks in your boxes, I think that what you're doing is really important. And the philosophy and the approach you take is really valuable.
And I will say that one of the reasons why I have leaned that way in this job is because I have a superintendent that is that way.
Oh, okay. That makes it even specialer.
It is. Our team is full of people that have that approach, and it comes from the top down.
That's awesome.
When you trust who you're working with, it makes a big difference. And I have that kind of boss. So
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. The active listening thing also just resonated with me as well, because Mandi and I have talked about this too. Because we do have teams at my school. And so I do kind of play a role as a leader. And Mandi brought this up I don't know if it was this year or whenever we're talking. It is so different to be a teacher and then to be a leader. Like, the amount of listening that you have to, like, now being in this new role and realizing that I need to shut up and I have to listen. It's really hard to be quiet as a teacher and not be like let's problem solve. What about this idea? What about this idea? And let other people come to you. Like, active listening is no joke. It is hard to master.
It is. And I lean towards kind of the ADHD side, and I want to jump in and throw in a little bit of my own stuff. And I am constantly telling myself while I'm listening to people, don't talk.
Yes, I do that too.
When I feel the urge, I tell myself, stop. I say the words in my head. I'm one of those who has that internal monologue. I am telling myself stop repeatedly all day to help refocus me and not step on other people,
Yeah, you taught me that, Mandi. Like, I don't know when you said it, but you're like, as a teacher, you talk all the time, but as an administrator, you listen all the time. Like, I think you were reflecting on something, and I was like, oh, that's what I need to work on.
And somebody taught me the skill when somebody comes in. I now try to ask, do you just need me to listen today? Or do you need me to help you problem solve this? Because sometimes they just need you to listen. Sometimes they don't know. Like, I have also encountered that where they want to come in, there's a problem. They don't know if they want to solve it or if they just need somebody to listen. And so that's when you start with listening. And then as we progress, I'm like, okay, so do we want a solution or did you just need to get it off of your chest?
Yeah.
And both are fine. Like, it's a safe space to do either. But yeah, it's a lot of listening. And I am also a problem solver. And so I have to be careful not to jump in and just automatically try to solve it for them. So
I was going to take that thread right there and pull on it, because I always saw myself as somebody who wanted to solve other people's problems. And I'll be completely transparent. I went through some good therapy about, oh my goodness, it must have been about 12, 13 years ago. I've got a cat with me now.
Tell us who it is, though, before we go on.
This is Dora. So Dora will likely be walking in front of the computer here frequently. As soon as she hears me talking, she comes. So I'm surprised she didn't come earlier.
If our Jody was allowed to be in the basement, she would be here as well, but she's not allowed.
If I had closed the door, it would have been more difficult because she would have been scratching and then meowing. It would have been far more disruptive.
No, yeah, we're in the basement. Mandi knows. Jody will stand up at the door and then she'll go to each family member and cry to let them know that I closed the door and that she should be allowed downstairs. Sorry, problem solving.
No. What I learned through dealing with my own tendencies of problem solving is one of the reasons why I shouldn't try to solve other people's problems, but maybe offer advice, is because I am stealing their opportunity to grow from the experience.
Stop it. I love that.
I know. It's like there is a reason why that person is experiencing what they're experiencing. There's got to be a reason for them to be able to grow from that experience. It may be small, it may be big, but if I jump in and try to fix it for them, they have lost that opportunity to grow from that experience. And I look back at the troubles that I've had to overcome in my life and the various experiences, small and large. And if someone had jumped in and solved those things for me, I wouldn't have learned from that experience. And so I try to, and I'm very transparent with my staff about that as well. I'm like, I have ideas about this issue, but I think that you're going to grow more if you work through this on your own. Now, if it's something that's, really just completely inappropriate that somebody's doing to them and it's against board policy and all that stuff, of course I'm going to jump in. But if it's, this teacher needs some help with this lesson, what I'll give some ideas and I'll say, now go sit down and talk with them and see what kind of conversations you can have with them. And, but that then gives them the opportunity to grow better from the experience. So
I like that strategy. So you're giving them ideas, but you're not solving the problem for them completely. They still have to make an effort to do, like, you're giving them some tools to solve their problem, but you're not fixing it for them.
Absolutely.
I like that a lot. Do you find that you do that a lot too, Mandi, in your role?
Depending on what the situation is, I always give suggestions. Like, here are some things that I might try, but I try never to say, here's what you need to go do.
Yeah. It's hard not to do that sometimes.
It is.
Especially when somebody wants to know, especially some of our people that we might work with that tend to be like, just do it for me. It's a hard balance to have for sure when we need them to do it by themselves, even though it's uncomfortable, What a great answer.
All right, here comes the bowl again.
Here comes the bowl again. If we came to visit your hometown of Alexandria, Louisiana, where would you take us to eat? What would you take us to do? And what would you take us to see?
That's a challenge because I have not spent as much time as I would have liked in Alexandria, because that's not where I live now, but that's where I grew up.
Right.
But my family still lives there. So I would definitely take you to my mom's house.
Oh, I love that.
Because, probably because that's where I'd be staying. But no, she has a fabulous, we have a rather large backyard, and she is very much into growing just beautiful plants and trees and vines, and she does a lot with just cultivating nature in the backyard. And I would have her give us a tour of her yard, because she has, and I would imagine it's probably therapeutic for her as well. But I mean, she's put a lot of time into that environment, and she can tell you where she got that particular version of her plant from, and she can tell you the history of the line of that plant. If it's a particular type of rose, how did that rose get its name? And so there's, but I also have a lot of good memories of that backyard. I mean, that's the backyard I grew up in, where, I would go out and play in, but I'd also go out, and when my father was still with us, he had a shed in that backyard, and he taught me a lot of things. I would mow that backyard when I was a kid, you know, so the backyard has a lot of good memories for me. If I had to take you somewhere else, it'd probably be just going around and showing you the schools I attended. Because that's always a neat thing. I try to do it each time I do get the chance to go back. And I just attended my 40th high school reunion in October.
Wow.
So I was able to go back and actually go inside of my old high school, which was neat. And went, they gave us a tour. It was the day after the homecoming football game. They opened it up so that we could go in, and I was able to go around with some of my old band friends. So we all went around together, and it was a good time to share memories of the teachers we had. And it was interesting to see how our memories differed and what stuck with us. Some of us were educators who you know, went on to build those memories with other students, and some were ones who had children who, you know, went through schools. But it kind of ties into almost a little bit that active listening, is that we can all be in the same experience and come out with a very different approach to what we take away from it. For food, I mean, it's Louisiana. You got to have something Cajun. Alexandria is kind of right on the line of Cajun country. So North Louisiana, you know, if you think of the L as being Louisiana, if you draw that line right there where the crook is there, North Louisiana is not as much Cajun as South Louisiana. Louisiana is right on that line. My favorite, I'm not a big seafood person, which is a little weird. Maybe I don't do the crawfish thing, and you know, but I like a good meat pie. Natchitoches, Louisiana is known for their meat pies, and it's not too far away, but I love a good Natchitoches meat pie, kind of spicy beef with a, you know, kind of think an empanada, but a Cajun empanada kind of approach. I like a good Natchitoches meat pie. I have probably completely missed the whole point of that question, but you just took me on a trip through my childhood. So
that was exactly our intent.
Okay. It was the bowl's intent.
Yeah, that's right. I have to be honest with you. Sometimes I worry about, like, do I pick the place that they're living in now because that's where they're at, or do I pick their childhood? And what if I pick a childhood and it's not been a super positive one? I don't want to, like, hurt their soul, you know.
I can get that.
But
you know?
But that was just like, now I want to eat a meat pie. So I'm looking it up because I want to see what it looks like. It looks delicious. Of course you want to eat one. It's like all so flavorful, all in one, you know, nice little crusty bit.
I'm currently living in Memphis, Tennessee. I've lived here since 1995. Certainly, if you came here, I'd have to get you some barbecue. Memphis is known for barbecue.
Love that.
But a very different barbecue sauce than what you would get if you visited me in Kansas City.
Absolutely.
Oh, interesting.
The biggest conversation here about barbecue is it dry or wet? So do you like dry rub or do you like wet? I tend to lean towards the dry. I tend to lean towards, I am not a barbecue, you know, for lack of a better word, snob. I like barbecue seasoning, but it doesn't necessarily have to be on pork that has been in a cooker for, 2 days, becoming tender. And but I lean towards chicken. But if you had to go somewhere here in Memphis, and you had not been before, I'd have to, say, let's go to Graceland, just so that you could see, Elvis's house. I've been once. I can say I've been once. It was when I first moved here, and my parents came to visit. They wanted to go, so we went to Graceland.
That would be fun. I don't think I've never been.
We drove past it.
It's smaller than you think.
It is.
Really?
Yeah, it is.
It's just a big house.
Huh. Because I imagine it as a mansion,
It kind of feels like that when you're in it, but
okay.
I mean, really from the outside, if it didn't have all the land around it, it'd just be a big house.
Interesting. Hmm. All right, let's see what else the bull has for us. Or for Wanda, actually. What was the most memorable moment of earning your Doctor of Education, focusing your research on the topic of self-directed professional learning of teachers? Which I love that topic too, Wanda.
It is a passion for me. Go away. It is definitely a passion for me, mainly because I was a self-directed professional learner.
Yeah.
I never had a degree in technology. I was, my bachelor's was in music education. My master's was in music composition. And the reason why I gained any type of technology expertise was because I went to sessions that my district was offering. They weren't required. I was interested in it. I went to it, found ways to take that knowledge and help my job. So it's always been something that's been really interested to me. But to focus back on the doctoral process, that I loved the classes. I learned a lot in the classes. The most challenging part was the actual dissertation. And making my way through that and sticking with it until the end. I almost didn't. I almost stayed ABD, all but dissertation. It took me much longer to do that process. And I think the biggest lesson that I learned from that was, I chose I had done my lit review, I had done my data collection, but the data collection process did not go as I anticipated it would in my head. And something at that point, sorry, I've got to get rid of the cat again. Something at that point became like an extra little hill that I had to get over. It wasn't that what I gleaned from the data was unexpected. It was exactly what I expected. Teachers don't have time to do a lot of good self-directed professional learning, and teachers who have more outside of the classroom responsibilities have even less. Me, as a single woman with no children, had more free time to do that type of learning. If it was a single parent who was working an extra job and had 2 or 3 kids, they don't have the time to do a lot of that self-directed professional learning. And so one of the other questions in my dissertation was, what are the problems that you're experiencing? And of course, time was a big one of those. But the end was, how can a school district help you overcome those challenges? And it tended to be, we need that learning while we're actually here on the job. How can that provide us some resources, provide us some time. But so I knew all of that from the data, But because I didn't have as big participation in my data collection, I think my feelings might have gotten a little hurt. And because I had that emotional connection to the collection of the data, something in me didn't want to go past that. Eventually, I got to the point where I have to do it or it's not going to get done. And I've put all this money into it, so I want to have it done. And luckily, I had an advisor who got me and knew me pretty well. And he just said, you know, you just got to do it. Eventually, it comes to done is better than perfect. And so I had to set my perfectionist leanings aside and just write the thing. And honestly, I ended up taking off from work a good bit to just go sit in a room and write, because it wasn't going to happen if I didn't do that.
Yeah.
And then I got it done and I could mark it done. And it was done and not perfect. Then I don't go back and read the study anymore.
So much about that I can relate to. So Wanda, I actually help people write their dissertation. So I teach for a doctoral program right now. And I chair people and I teach the quantitative analysis part. So based on what you were saying, I feel like you had a quantitative study. Is that correct?
Mine was actually more qualitative.
Okay.
I put together a good interview protocol. I started with a survey. So provided a good core set of questions for them. And then I analyzed that. And there was definitely some quantitative in that part. But then I did interviews with a random selection from that group. Nice. And really dug into the data there and focused in on the qualitative side. So it was a mixed study, officially a mixed study, which I enjoyed because I was able to kind of get some experience with both sides of that. I also learned through this process, I am not a researcher. It is not my calling. And that's okay. But I learned a lot through the process. So
yeah. So I got really happy when I saw your topic, when Carrie just said that, because my topic for my dissertation was very similar. Mine was teacher self-efficacy with professional learning through social networks, because that also impacted me a lot. And I feel like it's kind of the same thing. So part of my study talked about self-directed learning with teachers, with educators. And I just looked at it through the lens of social media, because that's where I did most of my learning, from people like you guys. And it was such an impact on my journey as an educator. I kind of wanted to see what impact it had with others. And so I love that they're so closely related. It made me so happy.
It's definitely a passion.
Yes.
And something I still take and involved with. One of the things my district does is we have 4 days of flexible PD.
Nice.
Where they're built into the school calendar. It's something that the state of Tennessee allowed for, that instead of having 180 days, we were able to take 4 extra of those days if you have the right length of a school day, and make those into PD days. Nice. But we chose to, instead of forcing PD upon our teachers, to actually give them some choice in what they were doing. I mean, we still have to have some structure there. My school district is Lakeland. We ended up branding our program FLOAT, which is Flexible Learning for Advancing Teaching.
Oh, I love that.
And we have a little life preserver as our, but I am the manager of FLOAT. And I took a lot of what I learned through my dissertation and apply it a lot to this program, which has grown over the years. There are some things in there that it kind of operates we have a bunch of different categories. We try to give them some credit for things we already know they're doing. Like we know everybody has to do the safe school stuff. Everybody has these compliance videos. Well, why not address the fact that that does take time, and let's give them a little credit for that. So we give them some for that. And then we let them choose from some of the other things. Sometimes there's state trainings that are required. We give them some credit for that. Sometimes, we have a category called collaborative planning groups, where the teachers are going to meet in the summer to prepare for the next school year. Well, just give us an agenda and tell us what you did, and let's give you some credit for that.
I love it.
If they want to do a book study, we have a group book study form that, for this, walk through what you learned through the book study, but then take it and go use it in your classroom and reflect on that. And now we'll give you a big chunk of points, hours. If you're in college, we'll give you some we'll give you some credit for a college class you take. So we try whenever we can to learn from the fact that teachers don't have time. So let's try to figure out how they're learning and see what kind of credit we can give them, as long as it's, applicable to what they're doing for us.
I love it. I love that. Mandi, one more question? I have room for one more question.
One more question.
Okay. The bowl's been very educational driven, except for the random ghost thing that it did, and the visit to Louisiana. This is a solid. The bowl did a solid job today. In 2014, you were fascinated with sketchnoting, learning more about it in videos from Sasha Chow, if I said that right. Where are you now in your sketchnoting journey? Wow, the bowl just circled all the way back, didn't it?
I will admit that my sketchnoting journey has waned quite a bit. I am the type of learner who goes really deep into a topic and then gets burned out on it and moves along to something else.
I can relate.
I get that. If I get it from anybody, it's from my father. He was the same way. He got really into metal detecting, and he would take me along and do metal detecting. And then he'd get out of that and he'd go to this other topic. We did archery for a while. We did this and then did that. As an adult, I've done that, a lot. I got really into geocaching and went crazy for geocaching. And, and then I was like, okay, I'm done with geocaching. And then I'm like, sketchnoting was one of those. Those first couple of years, I did a whole lot of sketchnoting. And I don't regret it at all. I learned a lot through the process. I think I certainly learned a lot about brain science through the process. So not just the physical act of sketchnoting, but why it's a good support for learning. But me physically doing sketchnoting has waned a lot. In part because I need a newer tablet and I prefer doing digital. Yeah. And my tablet's really old. But I still pull it out every once in a while, frequently when I'm in a meeting. And if I feel myself getting distracted by my own thoughts, I will use that to ground me in the meeting. That tends to be when I do it more than anything else.
I love that.
But I certainly encourage it and talk about it a lot with people. I haven't done a sketchnoting session with people in a while. But I know that the ones that I've done have had an impact on people who have taken it and then used it with their students. And so I know that the threads of those sessions are still out there. I know. But yeah, so I still call myself a sketchnoter, but I'm not as active as
For life.
I have
You
been.
can call yourself
Yes.
a sketchnoter for
Right.
life.
100%. Yeah, we still we sketchnote almost every day, some form of it in my social studies class, because it's my favorite place to use it because it makes sense. And we actually sketchnote a lot like you do, Wanda, where we just get the ideas down first, organize them out, and then draw, because it's just a more strategic process. It's just more, step by step, and it just makes sense for them. And I think if we weren't doing Doodle and Chat, I don't know how often I would personally sketchnote, but I do find that it makes its way into my life in other ways. And I think that's what people sometimes, I think when we started teaching about it, forget that it's kind of like the using your finger on the iPad and thinking different ways. There's so many parts to sketchnoting, so like I'll be listening to a song and I'll imagine that song. I'm like, oh, this would be fun to draw, but I don't go home and draw it, but I do imagine the pictures. And I don't know that I would have done that 10 years ago. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So little things.
I also use it during meetings to ground me, because I struggle to focus in a seated environment when a lot of people are talking at me. And so I always have my iPad open and I am always doodling. Sometimes it is about what they're talking about. Sometimes it is just random doodles, but I have to keep my hand moving. My principal, because I'm an assistant principal, my principal that I work with, and I learned that he also used to sketchnote in his class when he was in the classroom, when we had our specialist classes together a long time ago. And so I will look over and he will also be doodling. And it makes me so happy to know that there are two of us in the room that's kind of how we organize our thoughts. And we both also just take copious amounts of notes. Our other teammates laugh at us for the amount of notes that we take on things. And sometimes it's visual and sometimes it's words. And so it's nice to see somebody else in the room doing it too.
Agreed.
Yep.
Agreed. It's nice to have, right? I feel like it's also a nice skill to have. I remember a couple summers ago, we were doing a book study on racism and things like that. And I didn't want to read the book because I knew it was going to be heavy. I knew it was going to be hard and a lot of things to deal with internally, just as wanting to become a better human and better teacher. And I was like, what could I do? I was like, you got to sketchnote it then, Carrie, right? And so I got my Post-it notes out and I just, drew through some of the things. And it's nice to have it when you need it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and zoom in on our sketchnote or our Doodle and Chats that we have on Wanda. This was just wonderful to spend time with you this morning. We'll start with Mandi's.
My camera's been goofy lately.
It does not like you.
No, it hasn't liked me.
I think the iPad sometimes gets wonky with the screens,
I think so too. I agree.
You did a great job of spilling.
Oh, there it goes.
You did a wonderful job filling up that corner with the last question.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
So you were worried. I could tell when you looked at mine. You were like, oh, no.
Like, I don't have much room, but maybe she's got a chunk of square up there, but you brought it home. I love it.
I love it.
So fun. Okay, now there we go. Oh, that's your face.
Hello.
And a beautiful face it is.
Oh, thank you.
So mine doesn't quite fit on the camera. I had fun. I love the pull the string. I feel like I'm gonna remember that one for a long time. And I've got you dinged the AI bell that you're the first one to talk about AI in our Doodle and Chat. It was so fun. So fun to draw all about you. Okay, gonna get this right. No, I'm not. No. Oh, there we go. Did it.
Here's the thing. Because obviously technology is a huge thing for me too. Like the uses for technology, are there abuses of it? Absolutely. But the use for technology, like I use it in my job as an assistant principal. I will ask it to help me with things. And one of the coolest things that somebody taught me, unfortunately, it was just recently, I wish I'd known it before, is that you can have AI ask you questions. So you want to do a task, you can say, ask me 10 questions about this, and then generate a list or an idea or whatever from my answers to the questions.
Stop it.
Yes. And it's so cool. And so then AI will help you. Like it's questions that you may not think to answer yourself. And so you just say, ask me 10 questions, and AI picks the 10 questions and then they can generate the idea from your answers to the questions.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Very
There's
cool.
so many cool things that you can do with AI.
There are. I'm still just exploring it as a teacher, using it as a resource, which has been amazing. My next goal probably next year will be, I really want to teach students how to use AI to structure their math notes, because they're not good at taking notes. And I feel like if we could use AI to do that in a step-by-step way, it could be a game changer for them.
Yeah.
That's next year's goal, or maybe at the end of the year. We'll see. Well, thank you so much for being here with us, Wanda. We really appreciate you, and we loved being able to learn more about you, and honestly, to learn from you. You're just such a wonderful educator, and it was wonderful to hear all about what you're doing.
Well, thank you for letting me walk down memory lane in so many different ways, and for sharing various things that are interesting to me.
Fun. And for friends that are joining us, please snap a picture of your Doodle and Chat and share it out on your favorite social media platform, #Doodle and Chat, or you can find Doodle and Chat or Mandi and I there. If you need more ways to connect with us, you can check the show notes. And then every time we have a Doodle and Chat friend on with us, we have a giveaway. For this episode, Wanda has asked us to give away Beyond Worksheets by Amy Mayer. Watch for the giveaway so that you can be part of all the fun there as well. All right, everybody, we'll see you next time. Have a great day.
Bye guys.
And hold on. No edits. Last minute. You got to keep it classy.